Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another session of Soundbites of Immigration Success. Today, I have with me Vilma Filici. Hi, Vilma. How are you?
I'm fine, Monica. How are you?
Good. My name is Monica O'Brien. I am the Education Manager at CAPIC, and we're pleased to have Vilma with us today. Vilma, tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to enter the profession.
Well, I was always involved as a high school student and university. I was always involved in political work and community work. And in my community work and my political work, I did a lot of helping refugees and helping newcomers. And I'm talking, 50 years ago when I came to Canada. And my passion was always teaching. And so when I finished my first degree, then I went and I did education. But unfortunately, in 1991, there were no jobs for teachers. So I was asked to go and replace an assistant to a lawyer, an immigration lawyer. And so I went, and because of all of the work I had done with immigrants, I mean, it felt like a perfect transition from all my political work and everything else that I have done in my education. And I was quite qualified to deal with refugees and with humanitarian and compassionate cases. And then when the reason why I was asked to go work there was because the lawyer and his number one assistant were both going away for 6 weeks, so they needed somebody to take care of the clients. So anyway, when he came back, when the lawyer came back, he was happy with my work and he offered me a job. And so, I was doing supply teaching, and he offered me a full-time job, so I took it. And so that's how I started working in actually in immigration law. And then I took the first program that which you did too, the first program that was offered out of a law school for people working in immigration and refugee law. And then, life is great sometimes, most of the time, but I became the academic coordinator for that program at Seneca College. And so I combined my immigration work with teaching, which I was totally trained for. And so that's how I started. And then, 40 years later, I am still running my own office, and I am, and I am teaching for Seneca College as well. And I do a lot of other teaching and seminars and talking to different groups.
So it's funny how you didn't really start off to be an immigration practitioner, but the opportunity presented itself. And talk about trial by fire, where you had sort of 6 weeks to sort of show your worth, and goes to show sometimes you have to take advantage of those opportunities, and you're still able to combine your two loves of immigration and teaching.
Yeah, it was excellent. And I always, when I talk about it, I talk about a fusion, how everything sort of got mixed together to create what I am now, right? So sometimes you think, oh, well, why am I wasting my time doing, this volunteer work or community work or whatever? But anything that you do, it gives you knowledge and it helps you somehow at a specific moment in your life.
And when you did and you still do, I know you have volunteered and contributed to many things. You did it often for the passion for that project, or to give back or to help others, rather than looking for opportunities from it. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, yes, it is accurate. And one of the things that I'm, one of the questions that you asked me is advice to new practitioners. So I guess, I'm going to answer that question because it fits perfectly with what you're asking me now. And for instance, in 2005, I my business went under about $60,000. I was in the red because I was involved in a program, in a lobbying effort with different unions for the regularization of construction workers. And I was so involved for over a year that, I had to step away from my office and leave my staff dealing with the office, because I was traveling to Ottawa. I was having all these meetings, and yes, I lost money, but my passion at that particular moment was, and my desire was, that there be a regularization program for, the many people that are undocumented around the world, around Canada. And also community work, when I go give a talk somewhere, or when I write an article in the newspaper, it takes time away from my life, but it's helping a lot of people. And you would be surprised how it does help you in your business as well. I mean, I didn't realize it, when I started doing community work, or when I started going on the radio or TV to give advice to people so that they wouldn't make mistakes. But it is amazing. I remember Mario Bellissimo, who used to teach with us at Seneca College, he used to call it deluxe advertising, because even though you're not doing it, you're not actively advertising, but it is also advertising, and it benefits you in at the end, right? Like, you're doing things for free, but it ends up being very, very helpful for the business.
So that's an intangible, right? So I guess and we'll come back to it, because I know you have other pieces of advice, but one of your takeaways would be for those, take some time for your passions, don't forget about your passion. But often those passions and things that you want to do within the field will be lucrative and bring back their own rewards. So Vilma, you've been around for 40 years, and I know you started working in the field when you're 2, so that just makes you 42. But you must have come across some challenges in the field. The space has changed so much in 40 years, from the number of programs to the way it's delivered to managing both the business and your competencies. But what for you would you say has been your greatest challenge or challenges, and how have you tackled them?
Well, yeah, I mean, things have changed drastically from, when I started working in the field. We used to do everything in person, and we used to have to line up for hours and hours and hours to have, our clients seen. Whether it was to do an extension or to start an HNC or whatever it was. So, in the 90s, we started seeing changes, like we started seeing the mail-in process. And then, I mean, the most challenging was learning how to work with the constant changes. And then, of course, we always have changes with different programs that are completely revamped, or changes because of federal court decisions or Supreme Court of Canada decisions. So it's this keeping up to date. Like, I never feel that I know as much as I should know, because you have to keep up to date. And of course, I mean, the biggest change that or challenge that we all felt, it was during the pandemic, when we had to learn to work, virtually. And I mean, I've been around for 4 years, so you can kind of guess that I'm not a young person, that is very familiar with technology. So I have had to learn, how to work with technology, and not just with immigration, with all the portals and all of this, but also in my teaching. I had to learn all these different platforms, and for whatever reason, the college is constantly changing the platform. So I spend a whole month, dealing with it. And then, okay, now we're going to be using Blackboard Ultra, which is completely different, right? So it's the technological changes, and the constant changes that I found and I continue to find super challenging.
And so many of these changes have honestly just occurred in the last 5 or 6 years. The technological advances within the delivery of immigration programs, the numerous portals, and then more laterally, of course, the constant changes. So for you, most of these changes, most of the biggest challenges have been later in your career. So how are you managing then in handling the technology and the constant changes then?
Well, I mean, I have to learn it. So thank God there are videos, YouTube videos. So, and then there are so many other, ways that you can learn. And I have really good staff, people that know, one of my staff, like she's amazing with computers, even though she was a lawyer back home, but, her knowledge of computers is incredible. So, when I run into difficulty, I go to people that know more than me, and they help me. But I do, like, for instance, tomorrow, for the first time, I have 3 classes at Seneca College, and they're writing their final exams. And it is the first exam that I had to set with the new platform. So I am super stressed thinking, whether the students are going to be able to get to that exam, to open the exam, or whether I did something wrong and we're going to have complications in the morning. So it is extremely stressful.
Oh, I know. And that's kind of your side gig. I mean, it's in the immigration field, but I listen, I guess this isn't a good time then to tell you about the 2 new portals that are opening tomorrow. Have you heard about those?
Yep.
I'm just kidding, by the way. So there you go. So we're hearing from somebody who's been in the profession a long time, and her greatest challenges have been in the last 4 years. But Vilma's takeaway there is she's adapted. She's surrounded herself with people who can provide her some assistance as needed. But Vilma, prior to going on the air, we talked a little bit about the challenge of how the profession, like if you're running your own business, you're not only an entrepreneur, but you're a practitioner, and that can be a challenge as well. And you said you've found that challenging, because I think probably your greater love is actually advising people and working with them and providing strategies rather than managing the business. How have you married the two?
Well, I mean, I have no choice. I have to do all the managing and the administration, and that is not challenging, but it is extremely stressful. It's time consuming. I don't like it, so I have to fight with myself, to make sure that I'm doing the payroll deductions, and then I'm doing the HST payments, and because of course, if you're late with the payments, then you get charged interest, right? So you don't want to have to pay interest because you didn't get your things done on time. So I really find that part of my job not so pleasant. But I have a really good bookkeeper, and so she takes care of the reconciliation for me, because the college, they may check on you and do an audit, and you have to show the reconciliation of your client account. And she also takes care of my HST, so then I don't have to deal with that, at least. But yeah, that is the least the least likable part of my job, and also dealing with staff sometimes. Like right now, I have an amazing team. They get along great, and they and they're very respectful and hardworking. Like I actually leave the office and I tell them go, and they go, no, I have work to do still, like super committed. But I've had my really challenging times with staff. You train them and they leave, and they become competition, and so yeah, that's the part that I really, really don't like. And I have a really hard time also letting people go, right? Like I've had instances where I had to fire somebody, and I went around looking for a job for them so that, that when they left my office, they would not be unemployed. So those things I really don't enjoy about what I do.
Yeah, and I guess if you're self-employed, and so many people are within this industry, it's just a reality that they have to focus on. And would you say if a person's struggling with the entrepreneurial side, it's worth taking like some courses, if you can't afford a bookkeeper, taking some courses on bookkeeping and marketing and sales and things like that?
Well, yes, of course. Like if you have the time, to take the courses and to do it yourself, that is advisable. I don't have the time, to take courses, and I'm not interested in taking courses in bookkeeping and accounting and that kind of stuff. I don't do so badly with the marketing and with the administrative parts, because I worked with two very good lawyers, for 10 years between the two of them. And so the way that I run my office is very much the same as they ran their offices, and their rules are just as strict as ours. So that part, I don't need to learn, because that's how I learned it from the very beginning. But the accounting and the bookkeeping, yeah, if you can afford it, and with time, then it is a great idea to take those courses so that you can.
Yeah, and I guess and as a business grows, I mean, I know you could relate to this. It's so important to have processes in place and systems so that things get done and don't fall through the crack. I have two final questions for you, Vilma. You've been here 40 years, and do you enjoy advising and counseling as much as you did in the beginning, or for you, has it changed?
No, I still really enjoy and get a lot of pleasure out of being able to help people that that need help and deserve the help. I have the same passion for refugees, for instance, that I had at the very beginning. Of course, that I'm not as naive as I used to be when I started. I don't cry with them. I don't believe everybody. I'm more selective too. But I work really hard on every case that I get, and yes, I get a lot of satisfaction, advising people and helping people.
And as we sort of wind up our time today, what would be your beyond what you said before, what would be your final piece of advice for somebody entering the profession today?
Well, stick to it, stick with it. I know that it's a lot more difficult for people that are starting now, because there's a lot of competition out there. Also, when I left the first lawyer that I was working with, I didn't notify anybody that I was leaving, because I started working with him, and I didn't think it would be honest of me to notify those clients that were, very clearly clients of that office. But they looked for me. They started calling my family, any Filici on the phone book, because they were looking for me. Sometimes I would go to immigration when we used to do everything in person, and I would find my clients that had gone by themselves because they couldn't find me, right? So a lot of them came back to me that way. When I left the second law firm, it was very clear that, I had my clients and the lawyer had his clients. So I took, when I opened my own business, I had a really good client base already. So it was different for me than it would be for people starting now. But the one thing that I'm going to tell you is that kept me going for 40 years is that I am very honest with my clients, that I try my best. And when I don't know something, I have no hesitation in telling them I don't know. I am going to find out and I'll get back to you. or I refer them to somebody else, that I know that will be able to help them. And when a client doesn't qualify, I tell them they don't qualify and that I don't think they should apply because they're going to be wasting their money. And people appreciate that honesty. And I have people that, that they come to me because I did their parents' case, or I did a family member's case, and they know that they can trust me. And it is because of that honesty, right, that I've maintained over the years. So, stick to it. It's hard, but if you do a good job, word of mouth is the best marketing. Like I said earlier, like get involved in the community. If you get to, to go in and give a talk somewhere or write an article where you can help people, that is, it's not, direct advertising, but it does also work as advertising. And you don't need to tell people, come to me because I'm the best. Like if you're giving a talk, right, people will automatically go to you. Okay, so you don't need to be so stress your sales, right? That's something that I don't do either. Like if I'm giving a talk, I am very, I don't talk about me. I talk about what the client can do. And I always say, go to somebody that is qualified. I don't say, come to me. And people respect that, like be humble, be honest, do a good job. Keep up to date. You have no choice.
Yeah, well, I think they're great words to finish off, and I've written them down. Stick to it, be honest, be humble, be authentic, be honest, and the rest will come. Vilma, I want to thank you today for being with us on Soundbites for Immigration Success. We hope for you in the audience that you learned a little bit about one of your colleagues, that you understood some of the challenges that Vilma has gone through and has overcome and still continues to endure, as we all do with constant change, and that some of her takeaways make sense to you. So Vilma, thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thanks again.